Have you ever found yourself thinking, if I could say one more thing? In this podcast, we explore the stories that linger, the words left unsaid, the connections that faded, and the what-ifs that still haunt us. Each episode dives into real requests from those seeking closure, understanding, or a fresh perspective. Join me as we reflect on the moments that shape us and the things we wish we could say one more time. What happens when someone leaves without a goodbye? When the story you thought you were living is suddenly cut off. No closure, no explanation, just silence. Today's episode is about the echoes of unanswered questions. Claire thought she had found her forever until one day, James disappeared without a trace. No note, no warning, just gone. For years, she wrestled with the mystery, filling in the gaps with every possible explanation. But what if she finally got the chance to ask him why? In this episode, Claire revisits the moment she never got, the conversation that never happened, but maybe should have. This is If I Can Say One More Thing, and today we're talking about unfinished stories, lost love, and the search for closure. The autumn breeze carried the scent of salt and pine as Claire stepped out onto the weathered boardwalk. This had been their place once, the spot where they dreamed up futures, shared quiet sunsets, and debated the best way to grill fish. The ocean stretched out before her, a shimmering expanse of blues and silvers, much like it had the day James vanished, like a magician who forgot to reappear. 7 years had passed, and while she had successfully distracted herself with hobbies like restoring old paintings and eavesdropping on strangers in coffee shops, the mystery of James still itched, like a tag left in a sweater. Maybe that's why she kept coming back here, year after year, as if the waves might one day return what they had taken. Back then, James had been the kind of boyfriend who made grand promises but couldn't commit to a dinner reservation. Their love had felt effortless, until, of course, it wasn't. One moment, they were planning a life together, full of wraparound porches and golden retrievers named Duke and Max. The next, he disappeared, like an ambitious fad diet. No note, no warning, just a complete withdrawal from the narrative. At first, Claire assumed he had died. It seemed like the only reasonable excuse for someone who had once said, "I can't imagine my life without you." Turns out, she lacked imagination, because James was very much alive, just somewhere else. London, then New York, probably charming the pants off some new crowd while she was left rehearsing what she would say if she ever ran into him. And then, as if summoned by sheer irony, there he was. He stood near a weathered wooden bench, staring at the horizon, hands tucked into the pockets of a navy peacoat like a tragic poet in a mediocre novel. His hair was shorter, streaked with gray, and he carried the distinct air of a man who had spent the past several years contemplating his own profundity. The worst part? He looked good. Not in a "please ruin my life again" way, but in a "damn it, why couldn't you have aged terribly" way. Claire tightened her grip on her purse, her knuckles whitening as a rush of emotions, anger, disbelief, something dangerously close to relief, collided inside her. She had imagined this moment so many times, each scenario carefully rehearsed. But now it was happening. Her mind went blank. "James?" she said, her voice steadier than she felt. He turned, blinking as if trying to place her. "Claire," he whispered. She crossed her arms, studying him like an artifact pulled from the ocean, recognizable, but eroded in ways she couldn't quite name. "You look intact," she said. There was no hiding the edge in her voice, a mix of disbelief and reluctant amusement. How was it possible that he looked so unchanged when his absence had rearranged her entire life? He nodded, but his expression wavered, like he was about to say something, then thought better of it. His hands flexed in his coat pockets, his shoulders tensing as if bracing for a gust of wind or an overdue reckoning. "So do you," he stated. She laughed dryly. "You disappeared, James. One day we were picking out paint samples, and the next I was checking local hospitals for your remains." He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck, his fingers pressing into the tension there as if he could knead away the weight of 7 years. His jaw tightened, and for a brief moment, his eyes darted toward the ocean, like he was considering whether it might just be easier to wade in and let the tide carry him away. "Yeah, about that," he said, his voice lower now, like the words were heavier than expected. She waited, arms crossed, her pulse drumming in her ears. This better be good. 7 years of silence, of unanswered questions, of wondering if she had somehow misread everything they had. It all came down to whatever he was about to say. The weight of it settled in her chest, a mix of apprehension and something dangerously close to hope, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe because, despite everything, she still wanted to understand. Or maybe because, deep down, she already knew that whatever he said wouldn't change the ending. "I left because I knew we wanted different things," he admitted, his voice quieter now. "You wanted a family, kids, and I didn't. I knew that was your dream, Claire. I knew how much it meant to you, how much it had always meant to you. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't be the one to give it to you. I didn't want to hold you back, to let you waste years hoping I'd change my mind when I knew I never would." Claire's breath caught, 1,000 unspoken arguments rushing to the surface. She forced herself to stay still, to keep her voice even. "You never said that, James. You never even gave me the chance to decide if that was a deal breaker for me," she declared. "I knew it would break your heart," he said, looking at her with something almost like pain. "I loved you too much to keep you in something that would never be what you dreamed of. You deserved someone who wanted the same future, and I..." He hesitated, shaking his head. "I thought if I just disappeared, you'd move on and find that." Her eyebrows shot up. "So naturally, your solution was to vanish and leave me guessing for 7 years?" she accused. He winced. "It was selfish. I know. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was a coward. I told myself I was sparing you pain, but really, I was sparing myself the guilt of seeing your face when I said the words out loud. Leaving like that, it was easier for me, not for you, and I hate that I did that to you. Claire scoffed, the weight of his words settling in. James, you ghosted me before ghosting was even mainstream. Do you know how insane that is? He let out a breath, nodding. I do. And I'm sorry, Claire. Not just for leaving, but for the way I did it. For making you wonder. For letting you think it was something you did. You deserved an explanation then, and I was too much of a coward to give you one. I regret that. She studied him, searching for something. Regret, longing, a flash of a man she had once loved. And maybe it was there, buried beneath years of self-doubt and rationalizations. But what did it matter now? The truth settled in like an old friend. She didn't need an explanation anymore. Closure wasn't a magic spell cast by one who disappeared. It was realizing she had been fine without him. Maybe not at first. Maybe not for a long time. But eventually, fine had crept in and made itself comfortable. She stepped back, inhaling the crisp ocean air. I did want a family, she said, more to herself than to him. But I also just wanted you. James swallowed hard, his throat tight with the weight of all the things he hadn't said before. He had rehearsed this moment in his head 1,000 times, imagining how she might react, how he might justify himself. But none of it had prepared him for the look in her eyes. There was no anger there, not anymore. Just something quieter, sadder, like she had already moved past needing an apology. He exhaled, nodding as if that simple motion could somehow convey all the regret he carried. I know, he voiced. She nodded, allowing the weight of their past to lift, just a little. Goodbye, James. He hesitated, then nodded. Goodbye, Claire. She turned and walked away, already composing the story she would tell later. Something about men, cowardice, and that particular ability to rewrite history in their own favor. Maybe she would embellish a little at a moment where he begged for a second chance. Or maybe she would tell it exactly as it happened, because honestly, it was already ridiculous enough. Either way, she smiled. Now that was a story worth telling. And just like that, Claire walked away, not just from James, but from the weight of wondering. Some endings don't come with grand gestures or perfect closure. Sometimes they arrive in quiet realizations, in the space between what was and what will be. Of course, this story isn't real. Not exactly. The names have been changed for privacy, but the emotions, the lingering questions, those are very real. Claire came to me with a request to craft the conversation she never got to have, to give shape to the words that stayed stuck in her throat for years. And now that she's heard them spoken aloud, I wanted to sit down with her, to ask how it feels to finally hear James' side, even if it's imagined, and to explore what closure really means when the past still lingers. So, let's talk to Claire. Claire, let's start at the beginning. Or rather, the end. James disappeared from your life without a word. Can you take us back to that moment? What was it like to be left with nothing but questions?
You know that feeling when you wake up thinking you've overslept but then realize it's Saturday and there was never an alarm in the first place? It was a little like that, except instead of relief, I just had this gnawing sense that something was missing.
Hmm.
One day we were planning a future together, and the next he was gone. No explanation, no closure. Just a disappearing act worthy of a magician.
When someone leaves like that, the mind tends to fill in the gaps. What were some of your theories you told yourself over the years?
Oh, I had a whole detective board in my head, complete with red string. Was he abducted? Did he join a monastery? Witness protection? Secret second family? But mostly, I kept wondering if I had missed something, some sign, some moment where I could have changed the outcome. That was the worst part, really, not knowing whether I should be angry at him or myself. And let me tell you, the anger came in waves. At first, I was furious with him. How dare he just vanish? Who does that to someone they supposedly cared about?
Mm-hmm.
It felt so cowardly, so unfair. I wanted to scream at him, to demand an explanation, to make him see the mess he left behind. But then the anger at him got too exhausting. I turned it on myself. Maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe I ignored the warning signs. Maybe I was too much, or not enough, or you get the idea. It was this endless loop of blame, bouncing back and forth between him and me, and the worst part was there was no one to argue back. Just me fighting ghosts.
So you asked me to write a story, your story, with a version of the conversation you never got to have. What was it like reading it?
Honestly, it was a little eerie, like stepping into an alternate reality where I actually got to ask the questions that haunted me. And hearing James' imagined response, it made me realize that even though I never got those answers from him, I wasn't crazy for wanting them.
So in the story, James reveals that he left because he didn't want children, and he believed you did. How did that explanation sit with you?
It's maddening, isn't it? 7 years of silence, and the reason was that?
Hmm.
It almost felt anticlimactic. Like if he had just told me, maybe we could have talked about it. Maybe it would have ended the same way. But at least I wouldn't have spent years thinking I'd done something wrong. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized I was always meant to have that conversation, even if it happened on the page instead of in real life.
So now that you've had this quote unquote conversation, even if it was through fiction, do you feel like you have closure?
I think closure is a tricky word. It makes it sound like there's a neat ending, like credits rolling on a movie. But life isn't like that. There's always unanswered questions, always little echoes of what could have been. But do I feel lighter? Yes. And maybe that's enough.
Closure is a strange thing, isn't it? Sometimes we chase it for years only to realize it doesn't come from the person who left. It comes from us, from the stories we tell ourselves, from the meaning we choose to make of what happened. If you have an unfinished story, something you wish had an ending, a conversation you never got to have, I'd love to craft one for you. Send me your story at sayonemorethingpod@gmail.com and let's explore the possibilities together. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a thing. I'm Andrea Applewick, and this is If I Could Say One More Thing.